the day has finally arrived. The official State of the Nation address will take place this evening. President Cyril Ramaphosa, of course, expected to take to the podium, placing the country in his confidence as he outlines the plans that he has, of course, to mitigate the crisis that we're currently in. It's not just the energy crisis. We're looking at the economic crisis we're in, unemployment, the education sector. It's a whole multitude of factors that affect our livelihoods right in the country. However, my partner in news, Gareth Edwards, is in the mother city ahead of SONA2023. We're heading to him right now. You can see the beautiful views of Cape Town. I mean, the city never disappoints when it comes to those views. Gareth, good morning to you, partner. I'm not too happy with you, though. I mean, you gave me a picture. You sent me a picture of the beautiful view that you have, that you're waking up to, and I was absolutely jealous. I mean, it's so beautiful. I just wonder if the atmosphere is telling that it is the mood of Sona today. Can you sense it?
Yeah, you really can. Morning, everyone. Morning, Tumza. Welcome to Cape Town. So Tumza and I were chatting off air on WhatsApp. What I'm trying to do is get our boss to build a studio here with this view behind us. And I know for Cape Townians and those in the Western Cape, this is what you wake up to every day. This is always a bit of a treat for me when I see this. And we really are being spoilt weather-wise. Very, very windy last night, at least windy for someone from Johannesburg. I don't know if last night was windy for Cape Townians, but absolutely no wind this morning whatsoever. So that's what Cape Town is looking like. It's almost, if you will, the bookends of Table Mountain and Signal Hill looking down on us as we all get ready for what is arguably one of the most important SONA speeches by any president. Tumza, why? Well, two reasons. One is we know how difficult it's been for the country since COVID-19. We know the elections are coming up next year as well. And at the moment, you were talking about a multiple avenue of problems that we're working through as a country. It's basically a multiplicity of crises, if you will. You pick them: unemployment, load shedding, no jobs for the youth, not enough water in certain parts of the country, the economy, inflation, interest rates. You can go on and on and on. And that's what we're going to be talking about in our build-up to 7 o'clock this evening as well. That's when the State of the Nation address proper gets underway. But as we all know, the speech itself is only one part of this tea, and it's all going to get underway with our rolling coverage from about 12 o'clock today. Along with me in Cape Town is Dan Moyane. Also Sally Baudet is down here as well, and we're going to be beginning our coverage from 12 o'clock just where, and I don't want to say Parliament, of course, it's where the City Hall is, of course, where they're going to be hosting SONA this year because of that devastating fire at Parliament. I drove past it yesterday for the first time. I didn't realize quite how bad the damage was, T. So that's where we'll be for all the regular pomp and ceremony. So that program getting underway from 4 o'clock. So it's a good 3 hours before the speech itself is set to get underway later this evening. So from 4 o'clock to 5:30, MPs, including cabinet ministers as well, their guests of Parliament and the presidency arrive. Then 5 to 5:45, then it's members of the judiciary, provincial members, speakers of the provincial legislature, members of the executive, that's obviously executive mayors from around the country and obviously down here in Cape Town. And then 5:30 to 6, as they call them, the principal dignitaries will be arriving. There will be all the photos and the photo opportunities, and then the procession of the provincial premiers, the Speaker of provincial legislatures, and the Deputy President, the Judiciary, and of course the President begins arriving at around 25 minutes after 6. And there's a lot more pomp and ceremony tea that we'll talk about a little bit later. But as we come back to you, Tumza, you'll know that Dan Moyane and I were doing hashtag Road to Sona. And without a doubt, it doesn't matter which little town we had actually stopped in. The biggest issue, and we've been talking about it for years, of course, it's no real surprise, is that of load shedding, the blackouts around the country.
I'm happy that you all arrived safely, G, and I just wonder how's security looking. Last night I spoke to Linda Mate, the SAPS spokesperson, saying it's all systems go. They're ready. They had received, threats of disruptions on social media, signals showing that there were disruptions planned in terms of mobilizing by certain political parties that Athlinda did not want to name on air. And I just wonder, from where you stand, or if you had a chance to actually look around the vicinity of the Cape Town City Hall, is there heavy police presence there already? What did you see when you got there?
Yeah, so when we arrived yesterday, obviously we were making our way through to accreditation, which is actually quite smooth for this year's SONA, and not an incredibly high level of security, but we definitely saw more police and more army in the area. This is near Adderley Street as well. It's roughly where we were getting our accreditation. So from a formal security perspective, by the time we gotten into Cape Town yesterday afternoon, John Bailey, our managing editor, Dan Moyane and myself, we saw some security, but not as though security was on high alert. But you're absolutely correct. It's one of the stories we're going to be following later today. There is this expectation of a number of civil society groups, unions and a political party are threatening to protest outside City Hall as well. This is in the build-up to the speech itself. So, Chumza, what we're going to have is two situations. We're going to have possible protests outside of City Hall before the speech gets underway at 7 o'clock tonight, civil society groups. And those are the groups that are calling for better employment. They want more jobs. They want the blackouts to end. Then we have LGBTQI+. And then we have many other interest groups that want to make sure the president, if not the president at least, is hearing what they're saying. The media is going to be telling their story. So that's going to be outside City Hall before we get to the speech at 7 o'clock. And then there is an expectation that there's going to be a disruption as soon as the president speaks from 7 p.m. This evening as well. So the words we're going to be looking out for, the words we're going to be listening out for is point of order. And I don't imagine it's going to take all that long from when the president begins his speech to when we're going to hear that. How that's going to be handled by the Speaker of Parliament is an entirely different matter. Speaking of which, I am going to be hearing from Nosaviwe Mapisa and Nkula just after 8 o'clock this morning. We'll talk about what you're asking, security, the prep, and how this evening's going to get handled. Our coverage, our rolling coverage of SONA2023 here in Cape Town gets underway at 12 o'clock today, but our build-up continues throughout this morning, T.
We'll be with you, of course, throughout the whole journey today, leading up to President Cyril Ramaphosa taking the podium. We have to leave it at that. Gareth Edwards, Dan Moyane, Soli Badeta, Managing Editor John Bailey out in Cape Town to ensure that you do get thorough and well-informed, of course, road to SONA. It's still a couple of hours to go until we hear from President Cyril Ramaphosa. Very interesting key figures, as well as your decision makers that we'll be talking to leading up to that state of the nation. So do stick around and keep watching eNCA for all those developments.